I mean, among the curious moves of the night, obviously Detroit ranks right up there. I mean, do you believe that was the most curious, the Detroit-Atlanta shenanigans?
Yeah, Detroit way more than Atlanta. Look, at least Atlanta drafting a running back 8, I don't love it, but at least they got a really high end running back. Like he's not quite Saquon Barkley prospect level, but he's close. Bijan's awesome. I get it, at least from that aspect. I wouldn't have made that pick in a million years. I don't think they're a running back away. Tyler Algier, as you kind of alluded to, their 5th-round rookie last year, had a really good season. So you kind of make him obsolete. Why? Because he's a cheap asset. You have so many needs, especially on defense. No way I draft a running back. And all that said, still thought that was a better pick than the Lions. I don't know what the Lions were doing. I think that everybody's involved in this chorus now.
I do too.
Not alone, but not just Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a 199-pound running back, who is not going to be a bell cow type. And they just signed David Montgomery, and I like DeAndre Swift. They obviously don't. But then to back that up with Jack Campbell, an off-ball linebacker, 18, when he's, again, I said this on our podcast last night. He ain't Luke Kuechly. Like, he's good, solid off-ball linebacker, but the Detroit Lions had 2 picks in the top 18. They're obviously favorites to win the NFC North right now. They could add some impact players to get them over the hump. And they go with 2 non-premium positions with the top 18 picks. Position value is just not Detroit's friend last night.
Yeah, I said at the top, I was like, it's really interesting. Like, the consensus on who won, Eagles and Seahawks versus who did something curious, Lions, maybe the Falcons. But again, if Bijan is great. It won't matter in the end. I think that's pretty much consensus. Let me just ask you other things, which is, give me the under-the-radar team and person picked and player picked that you think is actually a sneaky great selection in this first round.
I'll go, not necessarily the player, but I was railing about, again, our podcast last night, just thinking about it because we just wrapped it up at about midnight. The Arizona Cardinals. Look, when I do my power rankings, look, I mark them down 32-1, right? I've been having this conversation in my head of who's the worst team in football this year? Is it Arizona or Houston? Arizona has both of those picks now in the first round next year, because what they did was they sat there at number 3. They really like Paris Johnson, the offensive lineman. And then Houston comes with this ridiculous offer. They don't offer Cleveland's pick from the Deshaun Watson trade. They're like, no, we'll give you our pick next year.
Yeah.
Houston's like, Arizona's like, sure, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah.
They move back. They move up, get the guy they wanted anyway, Paris Johnson at number 6. And now they might Entman and Corey out this thing. You remember that reference. Mm-hmm. They might have the first 2 picks of next year's draft. And even if you say, well, they don't need a quarterback if Kyler bounces back. They could trade that Caleb Williams pick for a mint, draft Marvin Harrison number 2 if they want, hypothetically. I thought Houston really got taken in that trade, but was really impressed with Arizona. That's how you kind of start rebuilding your team. You add assets like that. So if you're asking me kind of an under-the-radar team that really, really helped itself, it's the Arizona Cardinals. And not what's going to happen this year, but when we go on the clock next year and they have 2 prime picks in a good draft.
Let me ask you about something else that was sort of random. And a lot of people thought this was a great pick. And I was like, wow, is that really what they needed? At 24, the Vikings went Jordan Addison. Now, everybody loves Jordan Addison, transferred from Pitt to USC. A lot of people thought he was the best wide receiver prospect, even better than Jackson Smith-Njigba, according to some. Not to me, but according to some. Their defense is so bad. Bad. Was that a curious pick to you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I at least I get it. I mean, Justin Jefferson's going to need somebody taking some attention away. And I guess you make your strength stronger. You take the best guy on the board, whatever cliche you want to use. That's kind of what happened there. But I agree with you. Their defense was horrible. We all saw Daniel Jones carve them up in the playoffs. You would think that they'd really make that a priority. But when you get to, look, this was not a good draft. I think we all know that. We've talked about that. I listened to your show the other day when you were talking about draft props, and you guys kind of seemed to agree. This was just not a good crop of players. So I wonder if the Vikings in that spot didn't really have a first-round grade on anybody left. And they just said, who's the best guy? Okay, it's Addison. Let's stick to our board and take him. He does fill a need, even though it's not really the need that we have to fill in that. The defense is just bad, like you said. So, yeah, a little bit curious, but I just wonder if they got stuck with, this isn't a great draft. There's not a great player we love. Let's just take who's on top of our board.
We didn't get to 4.5 quarterbacks. We didn't even get to 4. We only ended up with 3. We didn't get to 5.5 offensive linemen. Over was a massive favorite for a lot of that. We didn't get to 16.5 offensive players. Which is the most surprising of that group?
It's honestly the offensive players, because I didn't know that until you told me. That's pretty surprising, and I know you guys really like that prop. I did too, just because it seemed like this was an offensive-heavy draft. Look, the obvious thing here is Will Levis, and I get that the mock drafters sometimes push guys up when the NFL teams don't like them that much. But the whole like might go number 2. Look, the number 1, the Reddit thing, whatever, that was just kind of dumb. We all knew that. But number 2, when I woke up yesterday morning to start writing, Will Levis was the favorite to go number 2 overall.
Yeah.
Obviously the draft betting markets are really soft, and they're obviously not accurate. But to fall out of the first round, that shocked me. When teams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tennessee Titans, Washington Commanders, the Lions and Seahawks passed twice each. And you could have envisioned a scenario where they're like, we got our veteran, Will Levis can learn behind them. We can use the second pick on a developmental quarterback. Nobody took the bait. And so when we get started with the draft today and everybody's asking, where does Will Levis go? I don't know, because all these teams have passed on him already. And
right.
Why would they all of a sudden go, that's our guy? If you were that smitten with him, you already would have taken him. That was the big shocker to me, that we didn't get the 4 quarterbacks. But yes, the offensive player was one.
Well, I'm totally with you on the Levis thing. And again, I sort of started the show by saying, in one way, it is refreshing, because Kelly and I, we've been sitting here for a month plus saying, like, did anybody watch college football? Like, every time they had a big moment, he came up small. And C.J. Stroud was just awesome. Did we forget this all of a sudden? And in the end, C.J. Stroud goes 2 and Will Levis hasn't been drafted yet. So I like that part of it, although not from a betting standpoint, as it, did I exploit it? But with the Levis thing, like, give me what part of this is this toe injury? What part of this is this supposed arrogance that he showed perhaps in interviews? Or third, what part of it is what I just mentioned, which is maybe he's just not a first rounder?
I think it's 3. The toe injury is kind of something that somebody leaks out there to kind of be like, oh, this is why. It's not because he's a bad player. It's because, guys go, Jameson Williams was coming off a torn ACL. He's a receiver, uses his speed, and he went number 12 last year. This toe injury can't be that bad. It's not debilitating. I think that Will Levis is going to be able to play through this thing. This injury we had never heard of, by the way. I just think part of it probably was he didn't come off well in interviews.
Yeah.
Not even a single word. Part of it is he came off bad in interviews. You heard that a lot. But I think it is just, look, no, he's not Josh Allen necessarily. You turn on the film, like you said, you look at his last year at Kentucky, he just wasn't great. He had his moments for sure, but not first round moments, not consistently enough to be in that first round. But still, you could have. I thought, yeah, maybe he falls a little bit at 20. Yeah, if that's crazy, 25 if we're getting really out of control. But all the way out of the first round is just insane to me. I did not see that coming in any way.
Real quick, because you alluded to this, which of those teams, Titans, Raiders, Buccaneers, Commanders, Vikings, even Saints, because the Vikings would want an apprentice. Which was the team where you're like, I cannot believe even they didn't take him? Which was
probably Tampa Bay.
I think so too,
because they're so thin at quarterback. But I could at least see that in that Tampa Bay's like, well, we're going to stink this year, maybe Drake May next year, maybe Caleb Williams. The Titans were a team where I was like, you're not even going to be in a position to draft a guy. So what are you doing there?
Ron Rivera said they didn't even consider it for a second. It was just like, no, we're not taking him. Frank, great to see you. Enjoy tonight's second and third rounds. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.